Hey, everybody, welcome to the Leftovers Rewatch on this very special October 14th. It's been my dream since I was a little boy to host a Leftovers Rewatch show on the actual day of the departure, October 14th. And
Wait,
I want to
since
thank,
you're a little boy.
Yep.
and I want to thank Jack for making that happen for me. Hi, Jack. Hi, Eckhart.
Hello.
Caleb is on assignment. We sent him to Cairo to find the wishing cup, but
Yes.
in his place we have Ro. Hey, Ro.
Hey guys.
Ro's going to have to do the Karen,
Karen? What?
not Karen,
I'm not a Karen.
Patty impression.
Patty impression.
Kevin.
Kevin.
Where the hell did I get Karen at?
That was one bad Freudian slip, Jack.
Nah, what are you going to do?
Ro is not a Karen.
Yeah. But today we did want to push it to the Thursday to do it on October 14th. And today we're discussing the penultimate episode of the entire series of The Leftovers, episode 7 of season 3, The Most Powerful Man in the World and His Identical Twin Brother.
Mm-hmm.
Before we get started, what do you guys think?
Well, we know they're identical twins because they were able to access the same door.
Through the same unique biometrics.
Yes. I forgot all about that part. I was like, okay, that's it.
No, I mean,
They even have the thumping sound.
I guess we're going clockwise. I'll say, this is the second time I've seen it, and it definitely was now on rewatch. And given how intently we've watched all the episodes up to this, it really is a good companion piece to International Assassin.
Yeah.
And I didn't notice it the first time around, but I definitely noticed it this time around.
I definitely like this episode a lot, but I do like International Assassin better.
Yeah.
But you hate
there, Jack.
But you hate International Assassin.
I don't hate International Assassin.
Before we get into the recap, do we know what like anniversary it is of the departure? Like,
I believe it's
is it the 10th?
I think it's the 10th of the actual departure today.
Yeah, I think so too, right?
Yeah. So,
because there was that great tweet. I mean, I guess you shared it, Ethan, right? Where Sepinwall said, I think he said happy 10th anniversary departure, celebrate it in whatever way you celebrate it.
Yeah, because it's not really like a happy thing to celebrate, but
so
or is it?
To be determined.
Depending on how you feel about the people. If anyone knows what I think, I really liked it. It falls under that season 3, not as good as season 2 stuff for me, for sure. But just like every episode we got going on, there's something about it that's the best of the Leftovers ever. Like maybe this last shot of the bombs or whatever. There's things in here I would never ever give away, like seeing Patty again. So I liked it.
And Meg.
And well, yeah, sure. So did anyone watch it like I asked with the credits this time?
In terms of
like with the credits and the music?
No.
Meaning the opening music?
Yeah.
I did, but my grandkids were running around, so.
Well, actually, I was going to jump in on that because you're usually the one that mentions that, and since you're sitting up top left, we get the original Leftovers theme.
And after all these different little songs we've gotten all year, man, that it hits hard, especially when you watch it over that credits. And
I've said this before. I feel like the series has actually grown into the soundtrack, in the sense that like that season 1 theme was so powerful and so heavy, but we really couldn't understand the gravitas of it until we've gone on this journey that we've gone through. So
yeah, totally great. Hey, hi, I'm Fischer Protocol. Nice to meet you. And today we'll learn the origin of my other YouTube name. Okay, let's get into it. Okay. The Leftovers, season 3, episode 7, The Most Powerful Man in the World and His Identical Twin Brother. Kevin and Nora are taking a bath and are happy. They discuss what they want done to their bodies once they die. Lily cries, and they let her settle. Nora says she will get Kevin's stuff, but only if he has a beard. He decides to grow a beard, and once he goes under the water, we cut to Kevin trying to drown himself in Australia.
I like that he jumped up to get Lily.
Yeah. I mean, this really shows like them like in a pure happy moment, right?
Yeah.
Domestic bliss.
Talking death, but still happy about it.
And making fun of it. And, you know, I love their sense of humor as a couple. It's really funny.
Yeah.
I feel like the first time that I watched the series, there was a little piece missing for me of the Kevin Nora relationship. And this scene solidified it for me.
Yep.
We were in so much strife and so much turmoil throughout the series. And what we saw of them were the fights and the problems and the craziness and everything. And this intimate moment sold them to me, which really sets up the whole series about the two of them.
Yeah, and I latched onto that scene after the episode ended because it really was one of these clever functions, by which Lindelof and his team is telling us exactly what matters. But we're so focused on trying to understand, as Ethan said, the first time you watch it, you really, you don't know if, he's the Messiah or not, right? And that's what most of his story arc is about. But what they're really telling us with that opening scene and then the conclusion that Kevin comes to at the end of the episode is that, that relationship with Nora is really the most important thing.
Yeah, I agree, and I really like the way they use water to get him, down.
Mm-hmm.
And they use it really like twice in the space of 5 minutes to get him where he needs to be.
Yep.
And little tidbit: this was the last thing ever shot for the Leftovers. This little scene here.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No beard. Kevin. Yeah.
So
I was wondering that because his beard is real. I mean, it's
yeah. So, and it's as thick as it gets in this episode and on this podcast. This is it. Right here. So I worked on that for a while. Kevin passes out. Kevin's passed out. Apostles wake up in surprise. The day of the flood is here. Senior thinks Lori's talked Junior out of the plan, and they run outside to find him in the teeter-totter. He's pulled out of the water after a quick review of his tasks, getting the song for his father, sending John's love to Evie, and asking about Grace's children's shoes. He goes back under. Kevin loses consciousness, and that familiar Verity begins.
Yeah, and this time they really cranked up the volume to frustrate Caleb even more.
Yeah.
It felt like they were even a few decibels higher.
It definitely was. Anything about the state of these folks before we go into the hotel land? No.
I thought they did a good job of showing like each one of them was like a little bit unsure. Like, Did you guys pick that up too? Like, they're like, I guess we're really doing this, right? It was like they talked about this for so long, and now they're actually like really struggling with the idea that they might be killing him, right?
Well, because they like him. I mean, he's they all get along really well.
Yep.
Even his dad was like a little hesitant, but
yep.
Go get that song, son.
Yeah.
And it almost sucks too that he had to do it twice. Right? I mean, he set it up so he could drown himself. Right? They take him out. Now he's got to do the whole thing over again. I think that would be. It's like, okay, let me be. I don't know why they pulled him out.
Well, you go, Ethan.
No, I was just gonna say Kevin's father was very cute. Like, I thought we were gonna do this together, right?
Yeah.
Let's have a catch.
It really is like you can see like it's one thing for all these guys to talk about it and write about it. It's another thing for them to be right next to him when this is done. Is that how you would read it too, Ro?
Yeah, well, definitely that. But one of the things that I kept my eye on the last time that I watched this episode, I think I watched it 4 times over the last couple of weeks before today. But, just twice recently. Anyway, but the last time I was really paying close attention to Michael
Mm-hmm.
because he's got the least vested interest in this for Senior, Grace, John,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, Kevin. And I feel like the next time I do a rewatch of the whole series, I want to watch Michael's arc a little more closely.
Mm-hmm. And I would also add that Michael's the only one who actually has experience with this.
Right.
Because he was there, to bury him and to see him come out of the grave. So he's the only one who actually has factual evidence of all the stuff they're trying to do. So he probably was like the calmest among the group.
But again, why if he's already drowning himself, why take him out just to drown him again? It's just because they all wanted to experience it together, or?
I think there was a weather factor when they brought him out that time. The one time they brought him out.
Well, the second time they brought him out was because the whole thing was flooding, right?
Yeah.
But Jack's talking about the first time, and the only thing I can think of is that they're all panicking, right?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, but to me,
except Michael,
it's got to be a rough thing to do. Prepare yourself. Okay, I may not come back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, he didn't tie himself very well to the teeter-totter, from what I could tell. He was just kind of holding the ropes on him, and his father wanted to do it with him. Like they're all being very selfish, and we get more into that.
Okay. All right.
That's what I think. All right. Cool. As the music blasts out, Kevin rises from the ocean and is immediately dragged out by the water by a Russian thug. Kevin is saved by Dean. They go to his bungalow where Dean immediately breaks the mirror. He warns Kevin about reflective services and gives him his mission to kill the president of the United States. Kevin asks to find his list of people. He gets an earpiece with mission control on the other end, who is David Burton. We find out that on the bridge, Burton whispered to Kevin that he is the most powerful man in the world. He is told to look into reflective services, a surface, and we see him in a white suit and a full beard.
And you might as well show us what he looks like, Ethan.
Right. But the first time I wasn't shocked to see Dean pop out of that.
Yeah.
And kill that guy right in the head the way Dean was shot in the head.
Yeah.
Oh, nice connection.
Yeah. Well, I mean we might as well go through this. I don't think there's anybody who he encounters in this place who's actually alive in the current time. So it like all the main characters that he meets in there are dead, right? So in order to kind of tell a story, you have to tell it with people that are dead, right?
Right.
So, except for the random people that don't really matter, like the thug that Dean shot. But they do such a nice job in terms of showing the typewriter with what looks like, and even I think Dean even says it, like, what are you doing, writing a novel?
Yeah.
And again, they're already like giving us a hint of the emotional aspect that is what really matters to Kevin. So that he's going there to answer all these questions for all these other people, but at the same time, subconsciously, he's going in there to answer what's most important to him. And his subconscious is telling him already, like in the oddest ways, look, there's a typewriter with something you wrote. Maybe you should read it, right?
He's already got the scar near his heart, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And I like when
he looks down and goes,
yeah.
That's new.
And there's lots of like little flashbacks to the hotel when he's talking to David Burton.
So when you guys saw the scar, Ro, when you saw the scar, were you thinking already about the next episode in terms of the explanation?
You mean upon rewatch?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, but initially, of course, I had no idea way back in 2017 what that was all about. But and I remember the first, I'm sorry, there's a little reverb. I don't know if that's me. The first time that I saw the series, I remember thinking, wait, did they misplace the scar from when John shot him?
Yeah, I was thinking that too when I just rewatched it today.
Yeah.
And I would like to thank Ethan because Ethan was the one that pointed out the scar earlier in the season because I wouldn't have noticed it at all.
and the first time you watch it, you had seen trailers for like things like them holding Kevin while there's rain going everywhere, but they showed nothing about what was going to go on in this world, even though we knew we were coming back there.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I had no idea what to expect the first time I watched it. It was all new.
Right.
Like it was all, yeah.
The other thing that I thought about in this, as he emerges in, we'll call it, I guess the other place, we'll call it, is that how intense it is, right? And, the comments that he talked about, where he was talking about this, in the real world, main world, he talked about how it's a place where he's never felt more alive. And it's just, it's just a place where it's pure adrenaline. And it's not just the intensity of, waking up and having to fight somebody immediately. It's that constant feeling of like unbalance and unease, right? It's a massive challenge, right? And Justin Theroux does such a great job of, most of this episode just acting like confused, right? Because all the people he encounters are talking to him and expecting him to act a certain way, right? And he's just like, it doesn't make any sense to him. He's trying to process it. And meanwhile, the clock is ticking.
Right, but he also is showing a mastery of this world in many ways too, because he's able to think fairly quickly to get what his check marks off.
And I think you see that especially in his conversation with God, right?
Yeah.
In the way that he's like, all right, this is what I need. This is what we're going to do. And it's like, he's not letting himself be thrown off balance by everybody.
Right.
But even so, I think the episode does a great job of doing the split focus in the sense that the Kevin #1, the assassin, probably has much better control over the situation than Kevin #2, the president. Would you guys agree?
I would agree, yeah.
But let me get to the president stuff real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin gives a speech. Halfway through, he realizes he's the president. In the audience, he sees Grace's children. Liam Playford is asked why he and his siblings aren't wearing shoes. Kevin does not get an answer except, why does it matter? And he said, your family wants to know. He said, but you said there was no family. Just then, Evie comes out protesting and singing. And I just want to go over his speech real quick. I'm the president. That's a great moment when he says, I'm the president, right? Tradition is powerful. In those early days of our movement, it was mandatory that all members smoke cigarettes and refrain from speaking, but we realized these traditions were stupid.
Shout out to Meg.
Every time you call something stupid, it's great. So yeah, then I just want to point out here that Evie sings "Love Will Keep Us Together," right? Mm-hmm. And that is in Two Boats and a Helicopter when Matt is digging for money.
Captain and Tennille,
that's right. What you guys got on his presidential speech and his interaction with, the Playfords?
It was convoluted.
Yeah. It was very convoluted, and it was very well, even I wanted a better answer than that.
He did get more comfortable with the speech towards the end.
Yeah, what I thought is that he evolved more quickly into the role than he did in International Assassin. Like Ethan was saying, he was thrown off and it was shaky. He didn't kind of know what was going on. But I feel like he picked up on it much more quickly and was able to go with it. And I thought his interaction with the children just fed his uncomfortableness. Like, what do I do with this? Because he was there on a mission to get information from the people he cared about, right? Like he was taking care of, John and Grace and his father, a senior. But then he all of a sudden realized he might not be getting the information that he was seeking. And I think that threw off the balance as well.
Or he's getting it and he's not getting it in the way that is satisfying to anyone, really.
Right.
Kevin's Secret Service agent, who is the Australian Kevin killed by Grace earlier in the season, rushes him to his limo. He demands to see Evie, and she brings him, and she gets in the car with him.
She's the effing president.
He is the effing president.
Do what he wants, man.
President Potty Mouth.
Some of the background music here really reminded me of in The Godfather 2, the scene where Vito is chasing the Black Hand through the Italian street fair. Some of that street fair music, the horns and such, it sounded very much like that to me. But let me see. So Kevin delivers John's message to Evie, but this is a hotel version of Evie, and instead of her being killed she is the only one in her family alive. She tells Kevin that his words aren't his and asks him what he wants.
Well, she blames him. She blames him with
drone strikes, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Then he starts to throw up water and slam back into the real world. So yeah, this is a otherworldly Evie. And I was really gonna try not to bring this up too much, but more than ever in any show, there's more like phallic imagery in this episode more than anything else. Ro, you know what I'm about to talk about in the limo? You're on mute. You're muted. You're muted.
Sorry, I'm still muted. I have a picture sitting on my printer right now.
What is it?
It's a picture of the symbol behind Evie.
In the car?
In the car, when Evie, in the limo, when Evie's first talking, it looks like a 3. And I thought there was a 3 back there, and I kind of ignored it. And on my last rewatch, I was like, what is that? And then as she moved away, once Kevin starts, vomiting the water, throwing up the water, as she moved away, I realized it was certainly a phallic symbol.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, 10 points.
Yeah. Now I did want.
You guys can split them since you guys both found it.
I did want to go back because I thought there was something that was really funny that needed mentioning. I didn't mention his dialogue on the way to the bunker. Right.
Mm-hmm.
You're being brought to a bunker in which you will access your unique biometrics once inside. Sorry, my unique biometrics? Yes, sir. The door can be only unlocked by you and you alone, unless you have an identical twin brother, which would be ridiculous. Yeah, that would be ridiculous. So all these jokes that they're playing, all these obvious jokes to us. I mean, it's really kind of like, I hate to say this, it sounds like a celebration of the leftovers between the writers and the fans. And I love stuff like that with their dialogue here.
Right.
Especially when it works.
Yeah.
But the setting of it is so clever because we're in a place that might be the afterlife. It might be something that he's dreaming, but the laws of logic and physics don't really apply, right? So you can do stuff like this and then throw in a few little nuggets for the superfans, right?
And I think beyond the nuggets for the superfans too, I think the humor is used better. Like this season and maybe even season 2, the humor is used better to break up all of the dour situations that were happening. I remember when the show was first on and Jack hated season 1, and Jack said, if you do a rewatch, just skip season 1. If you've never watched the show, just skip season 1. I don't agree with that. I love season 1 and love how it brought me into the series, but it was definitely dark. And the humor serves its purpose well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this is also one of the if we compare this to International Assassin, like there's so much front-loaded humor here. Just even the way that Dean talks to Kevin in that shack, right? It's like there's just a lot of insulting going on in this episode. And for whatever reason, that just really lightens the tension.
And especially after we come out of something like Certified.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Where could it ended it on more of a downer? I mean, in the best way. It's my most beautiful episode maybe of the season. But
you could even argue, like, of course, when Kevin went underwater, he didn't know that it would be like this funny. Right. But it could be like, for us, the viewer, what we're watching here, for most of this episode is so ludicrous that it is a relief from thinking about things like, is the world going to end? Is Nora going to get vaporized, right? All these people that we learned to care about, that have all these major issues that are unresolved, they're all put on hold while Kevin runs around in the underworld.
Right.
Yeah, is Lori gone?
Right.
And Laura's gone.
Is what is, right? Not everybody knows.
Right.
The apostles rush Kevin inside. He confirms he's delivered John's message to Evie. Lets Grace know her kids do not know what happened to her shoes. Kevin Sr. did not get a song. With Michael and John trying to stop them, Junior and Senior lock themselves in the bathroom, having an extremely emotional and disturbing exchange as Senior holds Kevin under the water.
Did they really try that hard to, Kevin? And there was no more pounding on the door. It's like, okay, we tried. We gave it our best effort.
Well, that's the thing. It's like it's so weird because you're watching these two men in their they're watching these two men in the full blossom of their insanity.
Yeah.
Working together.
Yeah.
Right. And it's sad and it's really heartbreaking, especially when they're saying truly crazy things to each other. Like, if you're following what they're going through, it's okay. But then one says to the other, only my unique biometrics can get me in. And the other one says, is that supposed to mean something to me? You know, that's a really sad scene if you take it just at, you know, a crazy son and a crazy father, and one's about to hold the other one under the water to drown him. It's dark stuff right there. Yeah,
it's dark stuff, but to me, you know, except for, you know, probably the final scene of the underworld, the realization that the twins come to me, this was the most emotional scene. And there was some foreshadowing of this, you know, all the way at the beginning of the season when Senior is talking to Matt, and, you know, that he even talks about the sacrificing Isaac. Is that what it is in the Bible?
Yeah.
Caleb's not here.
Yeah, and you know, and then Matt explains that, like, when he was going to sacrifice him, the son was an adult, and then Senior says that doesn't make any effing sense, right? Well, guess what? This is what you're doing right now.
Right.
You're sacrificing your adult son for some sort of a purpose, and the purpose that, you know, Senior thinks is he thinks he has to go get the song to save the world, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So
and he still thinks that.
He still thinks that, and Senior he's going through with it because he thinks he has to make the ultimate sacrifice to save the world.
And
he did say if he could take his place, he would.
Right.
Well,
I did want to point out too that season 2 John would have got through that door.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely, 100% right.
Not season 3 John.
So Grayson, what do you think that look on Grace's face was? She didn't get what she wanted, really.
No.
Yeah, it was kind of like, oh.
The shoes, I just wondered how they do it and how they look. I mean, what could Kevin do though? I mean, it's just like,
I did the thing you wanted.
Yeah.
That's the answer you got to go on. You know.
Yeah. She's like, well, let's go drown him again.
I do like the fact that, you know, that was kind of unresolved, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, it would be like too Hollywood scripted if, like, he gets all these very clear cut answers and everyone gets their closure, right?
Because even Kevin Sr. says, you guys got what you wanted.
Right.
Get out of my bathroom.
He's crafty.
He is.
And then John is I know Kevin Sr. calls him this, but John's being pretty selfish. Like, I got what I want, so we should stop doing this now.
I think he was also worried about Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin didn't look good.
No, he doesn't. And yeah. Totally. I agree. So after answering many questions and a scan of his unique biometrics, Kevin then picks Patty Levin for Secretary of Defense. There's a whole lot that's going on here. We have what did he ask him? He asked him what his pet's name was.
Mm-hmm.
which he didn't have one because his mother was allergic.
Yeah.
He asked him what his favorite movie was, which is The Godfather.
And then that pause, I love that.
And then this thing that started in season 1 with Justin Theroux and you being able to see his outline in the gray pants. They just keep following it through. There's jokes and jokes and jokes. And in this episode, and Damon Lindelof has stated he would not be doing this these days if he was making the show.
Right.
And it is mildly inappropriate, but it was really funny because no one would go to that length.
Well,
But
yeah, nice job. It's not like they showed it. I mean, I don't understand why it's such a big deal.
It's just funny. I think it's funny.
It's funny. I mean, it's not graphic. It's just, it just.
And especially like we said, like there's heavy stuff happening this season. There's heavy stuff happening just a few seconds ago in terms of senior holding down junior. And then you can just break that tension.
And Australian Kevy's really creepy with those blue eyes.
Oh, it's so good. I mean, it's like on that rewatch, like when he shows up at the end of one of the first episodes, I think it's episode 3. Like I immediately was like, oh, I forgot how much I love this character, right? Of course, I love him because of the way that he acts as the Secret Service agent.
Right.
But that's how powerful, like we've talked about this all year long. These just side characters.
Yeah.
I mean, each one of them puts in like a magnificent performance.
They do.
And he wins the prize when he says they're not going to go to that length with that smile. It's a lot.
Well, I said, like you said, anyone can get plastic surgery. I'm like going. I thought it was funny. I mean that.
And there's definitely a sound effect there.
It is.
Yes.
Yep.
Which I never noticed until people started talking about it. I've been re-listening to a couple of podcasts, and I was like, wait, I never paid attention to that. Oh my goodness, it's bad.
Yeah.
And as the answer to the third question, in terms of who's your Secretary of Defense, and there's that pause, and he goes, Patty Levin. And then we start to understand the symmetry now, the real symmetry now of International Assassin. Because this is where we get to see who is helping the president.
Who's helping? Who's telling him what to do?
Who's helping the president to complete their task?
So after a momentous meeting with his former foil and adversary, Patty and Kevin go into the situation room where Kevin gets the nuclear football. The vice president, who turns out to be Meg, comes in. Patty makes it clear that she and Kevin will blow up the world because that's what people really want. We can't launch without going through the Fischer Protocol. You know about the Fischer Protocol? Of course I do. Prove it. It's an ethical deterrent. The nuclear launch key was surgically embedded into the heart of a volunteer. In order for the president to be able to blow up millions of people with a push of a button, he has to extract that key by murdering the volunteer himself. Also, a semi-popular YouTube show about the Who. Okay.
So there's no Fischer Protocol in real life, right?
No, there is.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, it was by a doctor named Roger Fisher. They didn't do it, but
they didn't do it, but that's what they were recommending.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Who volunteers for that?
Well, no one.
Well, it was never implemented, right?
I mean, I'm just saying though. Can we get a volunteer? I don't know.
And which one of these last 40, however many guys you think would do it? A bunch of them, but still.
Anyway, I love the fact that the moment that Patty Levin comes on screen, she's already like Patty Levin dialed up to 12.
Yeah, she's Senator Levin from International Assassin.
Yeah, who came out of retirement.
Right.
And
well, she slaps Kevin.
Yeah.
And she says, "What? You don't have any balls?" You know, what did she say to him? It's so funny, and so happy to see those two together again.
Yeah.
Yes. And Kevin at this peaked up level of season 2 anger towards her. It's it's best relationship on the show, and I love it. I love seeing it here.
And it makes sense that they have the more confused Kevin, being the president Kevin, like relying on Patty for help, right?
Right.
Versus international assassin, right? And go ahead, Ro.
No, finish. I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
No, I was done. Yeah.
I wonder. I wonder what part of his psyche, like what made him need Patty in that situation. Why did he quote unquote conjure her? Like why did he bring her to that position? What did she provide for him? But the other thing is that I feel like the two of them are symbiotically related.
Oh, absolutely.
They kind of need each other. They've got that connection. But I also, in an article I read, Justin Thoreau was quoted as saying there was definitely a love affair between the two of them, or a love between the two of them, a deep love.
Yeah.
That we see throughout the series, and we see it again in this episode, and we see it toward the end. I won't bring that up yet, but toward the end, there's another symbol that shows us how connected they really are.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's when I talked about the symmetry, I mean, it might be spoilerish, but it happens inter-episode. She's effectively helping him the way that he helped her in International Assassin, right? Including killing him, right?
But wasn't it always her? That's when she was Laurie's patient. She kept saying the world's going to end. Wasn't that what she was saying?
Sure, and he might subliminally, associate that with her.
Yeah, so maybe that's why she's a secretary, because she wants the world to end.
But the thing that makes this episode, a progression from International Assassin as opposed to just an inversion or some sort of parallel episode, is that the fact that we have two Kevins, right, is really emphasizing the split personalities or the different sides of him, right?
Right.
And Patty is actually forcing him, you could say he's actually forcing one Kevin to kill the other, or forcing one Kevin to sacrifice themselves for the other, and then to bring the whole thing to some sort of conclusion, right?
Right.
And what are the things that she's making him do? She's making him literally kill Kevin Assassin with a knife, and then kill himself and the entire world, the entire underworld, with a nuke strike. And he can't do those things alone. And those two sides of the Kevin can't do that alone. They actually need her to guide him to that path the same way that Kevin guided her to the well.
Nice. I want to read this one little section here. The volunteer is coming through the east entrance to this facility in 15 minutes. And how's he going to make it through the security door? And just the deflated look when Kevin finally figures it out. And Patty already knows it. He goes, he's my identical twin brother. And you're like, well, first, now we have the name of the episode, right? And now we're just like, oh, I see how this is going to play out. And it's really beautiful.
And we find out later they are identical twins.
The vice president leaves when she sees how determined Patty is. Patty convinces Kevin to go to DEFCON 1. He goes ballistic when he discovers he cannot call Christopher Sunday once they're in lockdown. He looks into Patty's glasses and leaps into his twin brother outside.
Didn't he break the glasses?
I think that's later.
Okay, all right. That's a funny scene.
Yeah.
The assassin Kevin gets into the comms room by entering the bunker once again using his unique biometrics and with help from missions control inside man, the vice president. Kevin quickly drops his earpiece and kills Meg after she confesses that she has found true love in God.
I love this exchange because it's like, it might be like the snarkiest thing that happens in the entire series, where she utters that line and then Barton responds something like he says something, tell her God loves her too, like in a really like lecherous tone, right?
Right. He says it was just a pickup line, right? Yeah. And I like how he just shoots her and she dies in a very dreamlike way.
Yeah.
Just to have Liv Tyler back for like 5 minutes.
And I would say that, like, of all his interactions with the dead people in this world, this is the one where he actually seems to have the most connection to the real world, right? Because you could see the way that he kills her. It's like the anger from what she did in the real world really comes through.
Good point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's why we said this all episode. Assassin Kevin is the one that has much more control over the situation and much more awareness of both, like, how to act in this world and probably also what's happening, in the real world.
Agree.
Nice. Anything, Ro, on that about Meg or anything?
No, I mean, I think that it was a good device to have her be the person who supposedly is helping him, along with, mission control.
Mm-hmm.
But he realizes, oh no, this is not what I need, and so he actually takes control back by killing her and ripping out the earpiece.
Yeah.
Yeah, and every little piece of this is him, and his next talk with Christopher Sunday is him taking back control.
Growing a little stronger. And I also felt like when he is the Kevin, once he looks through the glasses and whether he's in the president or he's in quote unquote the Kevin we know, he gets stronger in both of those roles.
Mm-hmm.
Each time he jumps back and forth. I think he's just learning.
Yeah.
Right on. He calls Prime Minister Sunday, who explains that he already told Senior the dance is to bring the rain, not stop it, before he's captured. Kevin is asked if he believes in what his father is doing. He says no, which begs the question, what are you doing here, from Christopher Sunday?
I love this exchange because, again, it's like, just like, it's such an answer he didn't expect, and yet makes it all clear, and also is leading towards the bigger question, which is the truth that he's seeking for himself that he doesn't realize he's seeking for himself, right?
Right.
And to top it all off, like, it's the character of Christopher Sunday in episode 3 and here are pretty consistent, right?
Right.
And there was Senior probably didn't tell him enough about him, but of course, this is all dream world anyways. But I just love that we have this guy who he's like on hold for like 30 seconds before Kevin even talks to him, and he has one expression on his face, and he's just like,
why am I sitting here as the Prime Minister?
Exactly. It's like, why are you wasting your time? It's basically his response to everything, right?
Yeah. And I think I read somewhere that maybe in The Right Stuff or somewhere that Scott Glenn was in, that as Gus Grissom or somebody, or he lands a plane somewhere in Australia, and it's some movie, and one of the kids that he sees and walks with him to a plane or something is the guy who played Christopher Sunday.
Oh, really?
I read that this week.
Wow.
I didn't get the great details. That was really poorly worded, but
in The Right Stuff.
I don't know if it was The Right Stuff or some movie. Definitely, like, was in a movie.
Because Dennis Quaid's character was in Australia.
Okay. Well, then maybe it was Dennis Quaid's character, and that's a connection because Scott Glenn was in that.
Scott Glenn was in. I think Scott Glenn was going up.
Right.
Into space.
Dennis Quaid was a pilot, right?
Huh?
Dennis Quaid was a pilot.
Yeah,
he was pilot. Yeah.
Well, he was part of The Right Stuff.
Right.
Cooper.
No, just one more thing I want to say, because I looked at the text again, and you might have said this, Ethan, where he says, no. Kevin says this. Look, you have to give me something. I have to bring him something. He needs this, right? And it does really say something about Kevin that we don't really say enough, is that he actually does, like, he's actually kind of selfless, right? In the sense that he's prioritizing all these other people's needs above his own. And Christopher Sunday tells him, he asks him, like, do you really believe that? And he goes, no. And he goes, then why are you here? So it's really asking him, think about why you're really here. Think about yourself for a change, right?
He did it for his dad.
Well,
And early in the show, Lori accuses Kevin of needing someone to save,
mhm.
and she levels it as an accusation.
Mhm.
But is it an accusation? I mean, that certainly is part of his persona. His real persona is that he does like to help people. He can be selfless, but to the detriment of himself, which then injures everyone else.
Yeah, and it's like he needs to have that feeling of feeling needed, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and when he doesn't feel like he has that, and which I don't think Nora really supplies for him sometimes.
Mhm.
He might.
It's probably from losing his mom at a young age too.
Yep. Points, Jack. Points.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so Kevin looks into another reflective surface, and once again is president. He is faced with Patty questioning him, and he smashes her glasses in a fit of rage. Very funny. And he argues that he's not the president.
I wonder how much of that was ad lib, because he just kept smashing.
And her, when she's trying to put on the glasses later, is so great.
Yeah.
So great. So he says, and I'll just read this little piece of dialogue. I don't want to do this anymore. Do what, Mr. President? Stop fucking calling me that.
Yeah.
I'm not the president. You're not the fucking Secretary of Defense. Oh, yes, I am. You name me Secretary of Defense. You were asked who did you want in this position, and you named me. You summoned me out of retirement. I came back because I owed you. You helped me, Kevin, and now I'm here to help you. Help me how? Well, what do you want? I want to go home. Do you? What? It's just that. You've been known to say that before, and yet you keep leaving home and coming here. I'm sensing a lot of internal contradictions from you, Kevin. It sounds like something you need to work out with yourself, which is basically the entire episode.
Exactly. And the episode is wonderful in the sense that we said they're already giving us the breadcrumbs at the beginning, but now they're giving us whole slices of bread, right?
Right.
But I noticed as this is I think from this point forward, she starts saying the word Kevin a lot. and one of them, I swear, I think she pronounced it Kevin. Like there's not even an N at the end. It's almost like a B at the end. It's like with every additional Kevin, it gets more Kevin-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and they started doing this with the music. Like after Lori is her character is settled, they have this thing where they get to take us through some greatest hits almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
With Patty coming back and the Kevins and music being different and the International Assassin music.
Yeah.
So Kevin is unmasked and Patty sings the Patty Hearst song, which is a song that I don't remember. Maybe Jack does.
I don't remember the Patty Hearst song.
Okay. And we are now faced with two Kevins.
Mm-hmm.
And Patty, again, more slowly, explains the protocol.
Don't they both tell her to shut the fuck up?
More than once.
Okay, yeah.
They say because it's stupid, which is my favorite line for everything.
Because it's stupid.
Yeah.
He says it really well.
It's like another greatest hit. It's all International Assassin. I don't want to sing because it's stupid. This whole thing is stupid. So,
well, there's a little shout out to Caleb here because, after she describes like in very in legalistic languages what needs to be done, right? Then, it says that the last thing she says is, "May God have mercy on your soul if there is a God." Which there is not. That's immediately about Caleb and that one because of just like, we've been spending like a big part of the series talking about, a New Testament,
right?
The resurrection and all these things, and here you have a character who just flagrantly, espouses the atheistic view.
Is this did they play the theme from Big Love in this one? This Are we there yet?
Big Love?
Yeah.
No.
It was the Beach Boys song.
That comes, yeah. That comes later.
Okay.
Yeah. Congressional Medal of Honor, gentlemen. Something else, which there's not. If there'll be a vice president. Okay. The Kevins and Patty argue until about the purpose that they are there. Both Kevins think it's stupid, and Patty brings out an untitled romance novel Kevin has written, and there's more arguing until President Kevin is forced to read it. So before I read the excerpt, anything about their conversation?
Well, she goes the last page.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because this shit's boring, right? So read the last page.
Well, I mean, it's just like as a plot device, it's just so unexpected and so absurd that it's fantastic, right? Who would come up with writing something like, "Oh, there was a novel hidden behind the portrait of Fillmore," right?
Millard Fillmore, that's right.
Yeah.
Millard Fillmore.
One of the most random presidents that most people haven't never even heard of, right?
Right.
You know,
Rutherford B. Hayes.
I loved the way that they argued over the book. It was like they were two little kids. I didn't write it. I don't remember the exact words they said, but it was kind of that thing.
Right.
But the thing about the book is, and a pun intended, bookends.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we've got the Book of Kevin,
Mm-hmm.
and now we've got this untitled romance novel.
Mm-hmm.
And the two of them create such a strong bridge about what Kevin is doing and what those around him are doing to try to understand what's happening.
Right.
And to not only give us the answers as the viewers,
Mm-hmm.
but to give him the answers
Exactly.
as he's trying to figure out what is home for him, where is home for him, what is his journey, and how he's trying to merge the two Kevins, you know?
Yeah, and they did that wonderfully by using the same binding as the Matt New Testament, right?
Right.
And it's like we've been saying, like, because he prioritizes other people, right? Like he's ignoring the thing that he needs to resolve, right? And
it doesn't even hit till he reads the book, right? And both Kevins are in tears at the end.
And I love the fact that, like, that Patty basically forces him to read it, right?
Yeah, she'll read it, but then she plays with her glasses, like in that funny way. They can't put together because Kevin smashed them.
And just, it's so absurd. Some romance novel hidden behind some random president's portrait is basically where you're hiding the innermost truth, which for whatever reason you don't get to, right? Because you're trying to get Christopher Sunday's song and trying to get answers to why those kids weren't wearing shoes.
Right.
Can I give points?
What's that?
Can I give points?
Yes.
Ethan.
I'll take them. What'd I do? Okay.
And and Eckhart, you're both getting the points.
Thank you.
Yes. So I am no Justin Thoreau, but I'm going to read what he read in the untitled romance novel.
You have the beard.
This is what the points are for.
Uh,
Let's do it without the tears.
Don't worry, I will not elicit tears.
No, from me.
Oh, okay. She had suspected it all along, and now she knew. He was a coward dressed in the uniform of a brave man, brave enough to cross 2 oceans and a continent to find her, to fight countless enemies, and yet, in the end, he was terrified of her, to lie beside her, comforted by her as he wept, and to show her he was small, for her to know that, and touch his cheek and whisper words softly into his ear. All of that was a nightmare. He took a deep breath. Subject. He took a deep breath of air, tasting the salt on his tongue, and closed his eyes, leaning into the spray as the Merciful picked up speed and sailed for the horizon. He was alone, and all was well. So that's, and I'll read it after that. Read both Kevins are in tears, and the assassin begs the president to take this thing out of me so we can never come back here again.
Yeah.
So that is Kevin at the end of episode 4, at the end of Good Day Melbourne, right?
Right.
Where he's leaving the room, right?
When he's leaving the room, and he doesn't look behind him.
Yeah.
Right.
They did so they're showing all these flashbacks as he's reading this, right?
All of them.
Right.
Every single one. So many. I didn't write them down. There were so many.
And they're tying. Now they're giving us like the last half of the loaf of bread, right?
Yeah, it's the homeward bound of the season, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Homeward bound.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Ro.
No,
please go ahead.
You were done, Eckhart.
No. I can ramble. Please go ahead.
Yes, please go ahead.
He can ramble. Yeah.
Wrong podcast, right? RCAD. I tried to watch those flashbacks slowly a few times over because I was looking to see if they were all in the other world, if they were all in the hotel, so to speak, right? Or if there were any flashes, if they were all in the real world and there were actually images from both. I think it leaned more heavily on the real world, but there were definitely some hotel images in there too.
Well, that's good. That's a good catch.
Yeah. Give yourself some points.
Yeah. All right, Ethan.
Sorry, I was trying to actually look at the flashbacks, but I won't do that now.
All right.
Yeah, sorry.
So we see now the assassin sacrificing himself, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting because there's not really a sense of relief on his face. There's a sense of complete pain. So that like, and I think, and then who says we fucked up with?
Well, here, I'll read the thing. Okay.
Yeah.
To the sound of God Only Knows by the Beach Boys and under the Secretary of Defense's,
Big Love.
Oh. The Secretary of Defense's watchful eye, the president surgically retrieves the key from inside the international assassin. Before the assassin dies, he looks at the president and says, "We fucked up with Nora." Once the key is removed, and with our leftovers theme taking over, Kevin launches the nukes. He and Patty go to the top of the roof, hold hands as the rockets come raining down. It's a short paragraph that explains what happened, but it does not do justice to what you see on the screen here.
Yeah, and I mean it's this is the resolution to like his. I mean, I don't think schizophrenia is the right term, but there's obviously they're telling us there are two halves of him, right, that are in conflict with each other. But it and maybe it's because we've seen the whole series, but it really does foreshadow to us that even though there's a resolution, he's not quite happy about it, right? There's not relief, right?
I mean, I think there's relief in some things. I think there's relief that he's not going to have this need to go to this other place and try to choke himself with bags anymore.
Right.
I think there's relief at his confusion at what he wants in his life. I think that's gone.
That was in the montage, wasn't it? Him choking himself with a bag.
Yep. That was probably the bigger scene. But it's kind of like when I think about how he exits the hotel,
suffocating himself, I should say,
in terms of where he's crying while he's singing, right?
Right.
And for some reason, that seems much more like positive than him saying we effed up with Nora, right? There's definitely like a negative foreshadowing with that. And again, we might be biased because we've seen the whole thing.
Jason says, "Would you kill a baby if its twin would cure cancer?" Kevin cured his own cancer. That's good.
Nice
Points.
Yeah,
and it came with a key too, so
it's kind of somber, right? It's definitely really somber. I've said this before. This might be the best shot of the series. Now they watch it slowly with the bombs raining down.
Right.
But it's sad because the world is over. So maybe he's sad he's not going to see Patty again. He knows it's
so that basically cured everything.
For him, it cured a lot as far as his own mind.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the world's destroyed, so there's no.
Yeah. I think it cured a lot for him.
I mean, yeah, if we go back to the fact that he says, you know, going there for him, he never felt more alive. And that, you know, he and his twin came to the conclusion that they never want to come back here again.
Right.
It's the clearest thing we hear to them kind of resolving it, right?
And he probably wouldn't go back again.
Probably wouldn't go back again. And as far as
Well,
we
I guess
know,
he can if it's destroyed.
but again, it's like the fact that he realized, maybe this is what it is, the realization that he messed up with Nora
Yeah.
is the problem, might be the only negative, you know, thing that comes out of it, but it's pretty powerful negative.
Yeah.
But it's like it's the only thing that he should be worrying about at all.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He looks at it as the biggest mistake of his life.
Yeah.
Because they, as rocky as they could be, they were good together.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
You
see it in the you see it in the bathtub. It's just there.
And I mean, I would argue that it's not like they necessarily had issues with each other. It's that they each had their own issues that they were trying to work through, right?
Right.
And that, I mean, in many ways, that's what season 3 is about how they both go on their separate paths to work through the issues, and they do it differently. It's just that, you know, again, dark foreshadowing in the sense that he finally figures out, like in that novel, what the truth is.
All right.
But is it too late?
And at this moment, while the bombs are going on, we still don't know if Kevin's alive for a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know the outcome of what's going on at the farm. Did the world end? What's going on?
Right.
Right. Excellent point.
And if you're someone like me, you've spent 2 full rewatches still not being convinced that the other world was completely in his mind.
Right.
It's been a long journey for me, and thinking about it throughout this rewatch again, you know, there's still a few things that hold me back. I understand it better now with listening to all of you talk and the deep diving that I've done, but there's still some pieces in there in me that make me feel like, is this really all in his mind, or is this something else that's a part of what we don't know? Like what happened with the departure, you know, we don't know what this world is. And I do now more than ever believe that it was a construct of his mind trying to heal himself, trying to bring his 2 parts together. But there are still a couple of things that just sit on my shoulder I can't get rid of.
I think the part that I think it's part of his mind is the kids with the shoes, because he doesn't really know much about them. Right. And so that there's really no conclusion. Right. And so when he comes back to Grace, you know, he
never gets any information that he didn't already know.
Right.
Well, yeah.
So go ahead.
His only thing that he was able to fix was inside himself.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
And he spent a lot of time wasting that time to try to figure it out. Yeah.
All right, we might have to all go back onto the proverbial seesaw and figure this out.
Kevin wakes up alive and well at the Ark on Grace's ranch. He joins his father on the roof. Kevin Sr.'s faith has been shaken to its core. He says, "We almost lost you. We thought you were gone." And asks his son, "Now what?" And Skeeter Davis sings "The End of the World."
And wonderful tie-in to the first scene of
Beautiful.
of the season, in terms of when we saw all the Millerites going up onto the roof.
Yeah,
100%.
And here, you know, even with very few other people around, he's up there because he feels shame.
Yeah,
and confusion. And Kevin tells him it's all right because ducks go up, ducks go down.
That's his natural order of things. Yeah. You know, and it's the biggest question mark, and it's, you know, spoiler alert, it's the last people we see except for Kevin and Nora for the whole show. And you know, it's a beautiful episode. It is a beautiful episode.
And it's a great line that he delivers to the audience as well, which is like, you know, the audience that's been on this journey this long and probably will stay to the end is like, wait a second, the world didn't end. and Kevin's found some resolution. What are we going to do for the last episode? Now what?
Right.
Now what? And we know that the last episode is called The Book of Nora, and we know we had that flashback to Nora at the end of the first episode, and we saw her on that heartbreaking scene with Lori on top of the beach. Might be scene of the season for me. It's there's still so much left, but there's none left. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I don't know if there's any spoiler territory. That's the end of the episode. I don't know if there's any really spoiler territory. Maybe just to ask, you think Kevin Sr. did go to jail? You think they did admit to those murders?
Well, would Senior have to go to jail, or just
maybe just Grace?
Just Grace. I mean, he didn't. They didn't kill the cop. Just hit him over the head with a shovel. Maybe assault.
And how long did Kevin Jr. have to sit and look at that dead Australian guy to make him such a big part of his dream?
Well, that's the thing. Like, I mean, you could probably explain most of those things by assuming there was some sort of a conversation, like between when he arrived at the ranch, where they were filling him in on everything, right? So,
but how would he know what he looked like?
Well, that's the thing. Like, we could have Googled him, but but the point is, it's like that's kind of a detail that doesn't have to be precise. Right?
But we know Kevin's not computer savvy, because when he wants to look something, do that Facebook thing you do,
right.
Lori. So he's not very computer savvy to look people up.
Right.
By the way, I was thinking about that when he tells John about Evie, he basically lies, right? Like, he's very vague.
Yeah.
Like, he's just like, yeah, I passed on the message, and in many ways, it was a nice twist on, John's profession is basically lying to people to make them feel better about when they're asking him about their loved ones who are dead, and now he's doing that to John, and John just kind of accepts it.
I mean, I'm not sure what else he could possibly do.
I think John just wanted to hear, like you said, he just wanted to hear something happy.
And the thing is, like, and we kind of skipped over this, that before Junior goes onto the roof to talk to his father, he sees John holding Michael.
Right.
And they're both like sleeping in the disassembled church, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's thinking about talking to them or waking them, and he doesn't do anything. And I think, like, that's a scene that tells us that these two side characters, have found some sort of a resolution. Just given how...
To season 2, that's not John.
Exactly.
And just the fact that, they had to, if you think about it, they have to sit there over this thing they did, and now their friend is dead. And that's how they fell asleep, probably.
Right.
With Kevin's body there. Right. Dark stuff. You know what I mean? But, like Lori says, Kevin always comes back.
Yeah, always comes back.
And he did this time.
All right, Ro.
Yes.
Since sorry, that didn't come out right. Ro, I would really appreciate it if you would tell us now, since we might not see you next week. Beyond this episode, what were like the main things from season 3 that you thought were like the main takeaways or that were really impactful for you?
I think one big takeaway that I had was the role of the GR that I thought was going to be so different when the GR was so prominent in the first season, and then it kind of dissipates a little bit, and then all of a sudden it pops back up in this odd way in this episode. I just found that to be, I just wondered, what was their purpose all along? Was that thread lost? Is that something that they let go of? But my takeaway from season 3 is that I thought it was a great cap to the series. Still agree with all of you that the second season was by far the best season of the 3. But I liked season 3. And I really like the last episode. There are a lot of things that I like about the Book of Nora.
Mhm.
And I feel like it's a stronger episode overall. So while I started this podcast by saying that I like the most powerful man in the world and his identical twin brother, I like this episode, but I don't like it as much as I liked International Assassin, which I did like. But in this episode, in the most powerful man in the world, there were parts that I didn't care for. There were parts that didn't grab me.
Mhm.
And there were parts that were so super strong, like we just spoke about throughout this podcast. But I feel like the final episode, I love all of it. I
Mhm.
think it's a beautiful, seamless story that brings us to the place where it brings us in a really smart and interesting way.
Yeah.
And people messed out that didn't, because not a lot of people watch this show.
Yeah.
And we've said this a few times. It's just a lot of people. It didn't do very well in the ratings, so they messed out.
I try to convert people all the time, and you have to give that little warning about season 1, man. It's a little rough in spots, Not a lot of people want to hang out after Gladys, really.
That was rough.
Yeah, it's rough. But just as far as this episode goes, I enjoyed it more on this watch than I have in the past. I haven't not enjoyed it, but we kind of knew that. What I keep saying about season 2 is it has this element of surprise, and you don't know what they're going to do, and they come so far out of left field. You're not expecting any of it,
Mhm.
and the way they do it, the way they level up, is so great that when you're here, there's nowhere else to go. They're already at the top, so they just have to get a little bit crazier.
Mhm.
Which is where, like, you can't do a Matt Sexboat episode in season 2 at the beginning of the season. But once you're already in the crazy circus that is the Leftovers by the 3rd season, okay, Matt Sexboat seems,
Right.
fair game. So, they tried to ratchet it up with this, and, it's a beautiful episode. It's got beautiful moments. I'm so glad they brought back Patty. That was the best part. I guess when we were watching it originally, everybody assumed the vice president was going to be Lori. Like, everybody's sitting there waiting for Lori to pop in as the vice president, from what I remember.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
What I remember the expectation being.
I never thought about Meg. I was like, that caught me off guard.
Well, yeah, caught off guard because it really did seem like, and this is, I guess, the only negative thing I would say, it really did seem like, well, let's get Liv Tyler back to be in the show one more time.
Yeah, that's probably part of it. And same with Dean.
Well, but Dean made sense.
But
Dean showed up earlier in the season, and
he always shows up unexpectedly.
yeah,
Even in season 1, he would just come at it. He always was there out of nowhere.
right.
All right. So was he
Yeah.
real?
He was real, but Amy wasn't.
No. Amy
Yeah,
was not
if they
real.
really wanted to impress me, those twins with Amy, they really wanted to get me going. Like, damn, the twins and Amy showing up would have been something special.
Those twins are up to something.
The one thing about Meg coming back as vice president, I almost feel like this redeemed her character, which bothered me a little bit.
Mhm.
I didn't want her character to be redeemed because where she ended up was so heinous.
Mhm.
The things she did were so vile that I didn't need for her to be like the good guy again.
But she gets killed again, though.
True.
I watched Mulholland Falls for the first time this week. This David Lynch movie,
What did you just call it?
Mulholland Drive or Falls or whatever.
Yeah, you said Mulholland Falls. It's Mulholland Drive.
Yeah, and there's this thing that David Lynch does, where to show that people are so out of character in a scene that they act extra happy or out of character happy. And I saw that this time from her. I didn't think it was her at all. I thought it was Kevin's interpretation. He needed a face to put in that slot in his mind.
Yeah.
He knew Meg's face. It was in the background of his mind. So there she was.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how I saw it. I didn't see it as actual Meg in any way.
Yeah.
But that's my, that's how.
Plus, Evie earlier brings up the drone strike, which would be Meg. And
Right. So that's a whole other Sopranos conversation we have later. That's where I get all that information from. So. But man, it was a good episode.
Yep.
Excellent episode.
So we're bringing it home not this Monday, but next Monday, the 25th, with the Book of Nora.
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Jack's like, yes, let it end. And then we'll start Lost, right? Okay.
No, then we start flash forward.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. Yes. Oh, my God. I would love that.
So even less people that watch the leftovers we're going to do that.
Hey,
That's right, Cupcake.
There was 9 people in the chat tonight, so thank you everybody for coming.
Well, we'll do the flash forward.
Because I was loaded, okay?
That's that is my origin story. I don't know if you know this, Jack, but it's Flash Forward that brought me to the Jay and Jack community.
I remember you saying that, yeah, because I was like, flash
So
forward.
it's, my heart.
You remember Ro, right?
I do.
You remember Jay Glatfelter's The Bad Man? The original line was D. Gibbons.
Thanks everyone in chat. Really, it means a lot that everyone's here.
Yeah.
Yes, and again, happy departure date to everyone.
Happy October 14th.
There were 14 people in the chat, but 7 departed. So
Oh, that's Thanos numbers. We don't want that. That's 50%. But yeah, join us on the 25th. Caleb will be back.
yes,
Yep.
25th, Caleb will be back.
He'll bring the wishing cup.
And I'll be in the chat to tell you the thing that annoys me the most about that episode.
But should Ro really be in the chat, given that Book of Nora is her favorite episode and it's the last episode?
She can come join us. I
think she should come.
It's Fischer Protocol's call.
I think she should be here.
Yeah.
I would be honored, but I hope you don't feel like I'm inviting myself.
That's the way I feel, but that's okay.
Look, I mean, in all seriousness, especially since you mentioned how much you liked the episode.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd be
nice to have you on for an episode you like.
For starters, but more importantly, this in this anthology that we created, I mean, we're all about having the best commentary from the best commentators possible. So
exactly.
That's why I went to recap, so Jack could give all his hard fighting analysis. So
all 2 paragraphs tonight.
all 2 paragraphs.
It is nice though. I can watch the show without having to take notes.
Yeah, and it's nice to talk about it without having to talk to Jay, right?
And
exactly.
I took all my notes a year and a half ago, so it's not like I got to redo them.
Even better.
Yeah, even better. So yeah. Ro, you're here.
I'd be honored.
Ro will be here.
Back wrapping this thing up on the 25th of October, 8 p.m.
There will be tears
and wedding cake.
There may or may not be lies. That's up to you guys. I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about it then. I don't know.
At 25th, that should work for me.
It's already scheduled. Stop changing things.
I'm just trying to think. But anyway, is that it? Are we done? We're wrapping it up. All right. Again, thanks for everyone in the chat. Thanks, Ro. Thanks, Eckhart. Thanks, Ethan. Thanks,
Jack.
Points
Thanks,
for you
Caleb.
all.
We'll see you next time.
Hasta luego.
Bye.
Bye.